Good evening and welcome. Welcome to our board this evening. And the first thing on our agenda for August 28th is a public hearing. First up on our public hearing is on ordinance number 1600, an ordinance to the city of Tullahoma to amend an ordinance number 1578, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June the 30th, 2023. Anything on that? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next one. The public hearing on the request to rezone property in the 100 block of New Rock Creek Road and 2.85 acres from general commercial C2 to the neighborhood commercial C3 zoning district. Anyone care to speak on that? If not, we'll move into the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for the night. First, I'll call to order the board. And first off, I'd like to recognize Reverend Chevy Shields with our invocation, and following that with our pledge to allegiance. Reverend Shields, please stand.
O Lord, give each of us a spirit of service this evening, reminding us that we are your stewards in this place we all call home. Grant to us the ability to speak with clarity and restraint as we hear opinions that are different from our own. Help us to act with character and conviction as decisions are made. And remind us to listen with understanding and goodwill in all that is said here tonight. As we began this meeting, we ask that you renew us with strength and guide us to be the leaders that the citizens of Tullahoma deserve. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray these things, and all of God's people said. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Shields. City Recorder, do the roll call.
Almacher. Here. Berry.
Here.
Glick.
Here.
Noes.
Here.
Mann.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
7 present. This evening we have special presentations. These will be for the candidates that have applied to serve on the TUA board. With that, we'll start with the in alphabetical order. Steve Cope, recognized.
Thank you. Honorable Board of Mayor and Aldermen, I appreciate you offering the opportunity for us to be here tonight. I came to Tullahoma with my family in 1976. I began serving this community in 1982 on the school board, 21 years on this board. I've served every board and agency in the community. I've served Rotary. I enjoy being of service. I've served on the Policy-Making Council of the National Public Power Association. I've been heavily involved with power organizations, including Tennessee Valley Public Power, Tennessee Municipal Public Power. Not only is the power company and the utilities company important to our community for serving our community, it's also a vital part of economic development in our community because they hold the keys to a lot of development opportunities in our community. I enjoy serving. I'd like to continue to serve, and I humbly ask for your vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cope. Ms. Dean.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you to ask for your support for the appointment to the position on the TUA board. As I indicated on my citizen participation form, I became a part of the Tullahoma community in 2018. Having relocated from a densely populated coastal region of Southern California, I cherish the small town rural nature of Tullahoma and surrounding communities. Soon after my move, I became a member of the Tennessee Trails Association and am now chair of the Highland Rim chapter. I am also a member of the Friends of Short Springs. Through active participation with these groups, I have had the opportunity to be involved in the support, conservation, and maintenance of our local and state parks. The expertise that I would bring to the TUA board is a broad understanding of energy and water resources. As a tenured faculty member teaching earth science, geology, and oceanography for 27 years in the California Community College system, I have investigated multiple projects and issues related to energy and water resources. In that professional capacity, I have had the opportunity to tour several power plant facilities, including oil and gas powered, dams, hydroelectric, geothermal, and nuclear power. I have also monitored issues related to solar and wind development, as well as potential lithium extraction. An additional area of interest includes water resources, both surface and groundwater. Although the Tennessee landscape is different from that of Southern California, the issues and technology challenges related to energy and water resources are much the same. Given my background in geological sciences and interest in energy and water resources, I determined that a position on the TUA board would be a place that I could well serve. I feel that I could bring a fresh voice to this organization that is so critical to serving the citizens of Tullahoma. I look forward to representing the community of Tullahoma through a director position on the TUA board. I ask for your support and for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Mr. Chastain.
Thank you to the mayor and board for allowing me to speak tonight. I realize I came in late. It's not my fault. But, I understand that you didn't ponder me during the week as you did the other candidates, so I understand that I may be at a little disadvantage here. But today, when I realized that my application had not reached City Hall, I reached out to the mayor, and I appreciate him quickly getting that to the rest of y'all. I recently retired from Motlow State Community College. I worked there 27 years. My specialty is marketing, public relations, web management, those type of things, project management. I don't have experience on a lot of boards. I once sat on your board and cast a positive vote for Light 2 almost 20 years ago. So I could foresee the advantages that Light 2 would bring to Tullahoma and what that would become, and it has become that. I'm just a citizen. I'm retired now, so I'm looking for opportunities to serve the city of Tullahoma, and this is an opportunity, and I would appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chastain. And for the public, let me speak to the subject that Mr. Chastain mentioned about not having his application in. Certainly, he submitted his citizens participation form last Tuesday morning to our city staff. Robin Morrison, she had to leave that morning early for a medical emergency with her father, getting him to the hospital. She was not able to be here the rest of the week, so no one knew that Mr. Chastain's application for this position on the board was there. So when he brought that to our attention this afternoon, I tried to make the entire board aware of what had transpired, and thank you for calling that to my attention this morning, or this afternoon, Scott. Thank you again. So with that, these candidates will be voted on 31 items down in the agenda tonight. So it will be a fairly lengthy agenda, but hope you'll bear with us. So this will be for a vote later on. So at this time, I'd like to offer the opportunity to any concerned citizens to comment on anything that's under the purview of the board.
My name is Greg Gressel. I'm at 316 Oak Park Drive. Just wanted to bring it to the board's attention one more time and really make it aware to the board and to the public when considering and talking about Resolution 1953. That is the resolution for, 1952, resolution authorizing appropriations for financial aid to South Jackson Civic Center. Something that I had asked for at another time and have asked for a few times is clarity in understanding. When you look at the financial report and you look at allocations and everything that's brought to the attention of the public, you see that under Tourism and Cultural Organizations, South Jackson Civic Center has an appropriation, also has an insurance and a utility. Unlike the actual utilities that are paid for the Coffee County Senior Citizens Center, the utilities and their operated insurance that are taken care of there, and for other city buildings and entities, that money is going directly for those purposes, and we understand that. I've received several comments, and even as late as today, someone asking me about the insurance that the city pays for South Jackson. And I just want to bring that to the attention of all board members and our citizens and community that that money is not paid for South Jackson. It is paid for the city's insurance on the South Jackson building. And I have no issues with the fact that some of that comes from the tourism money, and that is allotted because it is a tourism spot, and the city is just looking to use that avenue to pay the insurance on that building, which is fine. That is not South Jackson's insurance. We never see that money. That is money that is paid for the actual building and structure. South Jackson pays their own insurances, our own liabilities, multiple policies and stuff there. We do use the same insurance company that the city uses, but I just wanted to make it clear and understood that none of our utilities or none of our insurances are paid by the city of Tullahoma, that the appropriations are the only funds that do come to South Jackson Performing Arts Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gressel. Anyone else? Anything that's under the purview of the board?
My comments related to the planning commission, is that fair? During this time, is that okay? Mike Barnes, 90112 Oaks. I just wanted to summarize a few concerns that, some are my concerns, some brought to me by other citizens, about how the Planning Commission meeting last Monday on August 21st was conducted and what the outcome was. The agenda was very lengthy, and in my opinion, there were too many major developments on the list for discussion and approval. It was an extremely heavy night, as most of you probably know. Due to the amount of information in the packet, some members of the PC were not adequately prepared. I won't go into detail there, but you watch the video for yourself. It's obvious what I'm talking about. Some PC members did not understand their latitude as it relates to the approval of plats. This was at least the second meeting where Mr. Worsham had to explain the Planning Commission's authority and responsibility. The developments on Avoca and Short Springs were complicated by some known stormwater management issues, which is not that unusual, but there's some known issues there. And the city engineer was not able to be present for the discussion portion of the meeting. He was there for the first 30 minutes, but he was not there for the discussion portion, so he didn't have that advantage. The citizens, or quite a few of the citizens, feel like Mr. St. John was not given adequate opportunity to weigh in on those specific issues he had concerns with. And in the case of the Short Springs development, Mr. St. John, according to the acting city planning director, had not actually seen the latest edits to the plat. The vote was called and the PC approved the plat anyway. This same development on Short Springs had significant discussion about the second entrance, shown as a fire lane on the plat, servicing only the first 4 lots in the 99-lot development. It was clear during a discussion that the public and the PC did not really believe that this satisfied the intent of the state code. and at least 4 of the Planning Commission members voiced concern about this being inadequate and also being a safety issue. Also, this fire lane does not satisfy the requirement for a second access road to the development, and the stub at the back of that plat to an undeveloped agricultural property clearly does not satisfy that either. Neither issue was resolved during the discussion. The vote was called, and the Planning Commission approved the plat anyway. Then there was a discussion about the Beacon Acquisitions development containing over 900 homes on 182 acres. And please don't get me wrong on this. I personally don't have an issue with a large mixed-use development on a major road such as this location on Highway 41. Okay. But my comment was that during that discussion, it was asked, well, might a new fire hall be needed? The answer was yes. Well, how much might that cost? How many new employees? How many new officers? And it went on. And clearly there was not much of a plan there when that was put on the agenda to try and understand what impact it would have financially on the city. So I know that not all of you were able to be there at the Planning Commission. I know the mayor was. But I encourage any of you that weren't able to attend to please watch the video and just make your own assessment whether the Planning Commission's acting in the best behalf of the community.
No motion that we extend the time by a total of 5 minutes.
I second that.
You need any additional time? It seemed like your comments were pretty well.
I skipped over a little bit, but I think you get the gist.
We got it.
I'd still like to, for anybody else that may go, I'd still like to make that motion.
Anyone else?
Is that a yes?
I second that.
Well, I don't want to I would like to make the motion, and I think we have a second. I don't want to interrupt her time if we're going to do that.
I don't think you'll interrupt my time.
Okay.
Bill Select was second.
She seconded. Bobby seconded.
We can play it by ear, too.
I didn't hear your second.
That was your chance. 3 minutes.
I'm good. Good evening. I live at 1104 Pickett Drive. I'm Ashley Shockley. As a business owner and mom to 3, it can be challenging for me to make these meetings in person, so I appreciate the ability to stream them live at home. 2 weeks ago, I watched a special called meeting that was meant to put processes in place for narrowing down the top resumes for our new city administrator. Instead, I watched as citizens, many advocates for keeping affordable housing away from their backyards, to ask the board to set aside experience and qualifications and hire their friend. I didn't know this process was similar to voting for prom king. I am confused by why being a Tullahoma citizen is a priority. Do we only hire locals to be doctors, engineers, hospital administrators, base employees? Several of the people sitting on this board are not, in fact, native Tullahomans or Tullahomians, however you want to say that, and we've never tried to drive them out based on where they were born. And to point out the obvious, if having intent to live in Tullahoma is all that is needed for elected officials, isn't that enough for a qualified individual who is seeking city employment? After reading the top 3 applicants' resumes, the obvious choice as the leader of our city is Mr. Dorsey, who has had a successful career as a municipal employee at several Tennessee cities of comparable size. His resume is impressive and has the much-needed experience under his belt. My choice of Mr. Dorsey is strictly based off his resume and qualifications. Business is business. Since the majority of Tullahoma citizens do not trust our current BOMA, hiring someone because you believe their friends will help you get reelected will only deepen this widespread mistrust and the divide. So I'm asking you all to please do what's best for Tullahoma by hiring Mr. Dorsey, the candidate with the most experience. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else on there?
Hello, I'm Terry Feiger, 308 Terra Boulevard. Being in attendance last Monday at the Planning Commission meeting was very disappointing. For over a year, almost every meeting has been full of people voicing their concerns. Last week was no exception. The room was full. People were in the hallway, standing on the stairs, and in the overfill room. Residents were concerned with a variety of drainage, safety, and lot density issues. Once again, the Planning Commission did not address the drainage, safety, or density issues. When our city attorney, Steve Worsham, told the Planning Commission they could ask the developers to make changes or deny the plats, it was very frustrating for the Planning Commission to keep saying they could get sued if they deny the plats. Steve Worsham addressed this again, twice, and the Planning Commission did not want to hear it. The Planning Commission needs to take property values, safety issues, and citizens' input in consideration. It is their obligation to protect our community, not just to represent the developers. I am asking the BOMA to put a moratorium on all subdivision or PUD approvals until the subdivision, ordinances, and zoning regulations can be updated. Please take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Cindy Watson, 803 12 Oaks Road. Mr. Mayor and Board, thank you for listening to us today. I just want to talk a little bit. I don't get off work early enough to go to the Planning Commission, but there was something that I brought up time and time again, and I just think it needs consideration. And it's my understanding there are several options of dealing with the impact of growth. One of those options is impact fees, and they can be the most efficient way, even though they do have limitations. So, based on my research, it looks like there's multiple ways to handle the cost of infrastructure as you go through growth and changes. The first one is impact fees, and that's a charge to the developer and normally passed on to the new homeowner. The second is to limit the growth to a certain number of houses or commercial buildings per year. The third is getting the taxpayer to subsidize the increased needs. Last week in the Planning Commission, I was listening to that, and that impact fees was brought up one time. I think it needs to be taken into consideration. We watch as other communities around us have grown and have implemented those fees. And why have impact fees? It's to improve, to maintain the quality of life. That has to deal with our roadways, our schools. Williamson County in 2016 implemented an educational impact fee because they needed schools to be built for all the growth coming into their community. I would like to know at what point impact fees could be considered for the new growth so that we can maintain the quality of life we have in our small town. I would also like to know what acceptable percentage of growth has been determined and who is responsible for making sure we don't go over that percentage. I think it's very important to make sure everything grows at the same time. All of our infrastructure is there because we all live in this small town. We're all vested. We're all here for a reason, and that's because we care. Y'all sit on this board because you care about our town. The quality of life you can't get back if you destroy it. And I just ask that you look at all avenues and all things that deal with the infrastructure and the growth as it comes forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing no one else, we'll move into the agenda. First off, I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda as published. Motion.
Mayor, I'd like to add something to the
Motion
agenda.
from Mathis and seconded by Berry. And Alderman Wilson, your comment.
I'd like to add something to the agenda.
Is it urgent that it be added? Is it something that can be published and sent out to the public?
I would like to just, maybe even we could add a discussion, or to consider and talk about a moratorium on any future large developments. I'd like to have that discussion until we can maybe have some more conversations about kind of where we're going and about some of the policies that we have in place.
Do we need it to have it on an agenda where we have 33 items on the agenda? Is it urgent that we have it tonight?
Mayor, I'll second for the sake of discussion, and at a minimum, I'm hoping that we can at least set a date to have a study session in that discussion. Maybe we can just do that. So I'll second for the brief comment.
Thank you.
Then do you want to make a motion to add an item for a study session?
Can I offer a slight amendment? How about you add that to the very front of the agenda? We'll just go ahead and look at a date. We can set a study session on that. So add that to the front, to the very top of the agenda, new business. That way it won't take much of our time.
So we'll have that motion to add an item for discussion at the top of new business.
Yes.
Okay, with that change in the agenda, we'll have a motion with this amendment. And all in favor of voting on this with the amendment? You recognize?
Well, we got to get one at a time, so I guess we can add this one and then yours.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
This is the vote on the amendment, not the...
Yeah, just her adding that, yeah. So, motion,
Ready to vote on the amendment? Passes 6-1. Now back to the original agenda as amended. Ready to vote? Need a motion? Motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis.
My request to speak. He's trying to make a motion.
You have a motion to approve the agenda?
No, I have an amendment to we already have a motion to approve. I have an amendment to the agenda.
Oh, another amendment.
Another amendment. This is according to emails that we received. I'd like to make a motion for discussion to either direct Administrator Pearson to immediately bring resolution to the Costa Bryce case, or for the board to consider taking back that authority and us bringing an immediate resolution.
Motion to direct the city administrator to resolve the Costa Bryce issue.
I have a question of our city attorney first, please.
Yeah, we have a motion. Do we have a second first?
My question is still going to need to be answered, but I may second depending on the answer to the question.
We have a motion and a second. Turn to the city attorney.
I may vote no, but I need to answer the question. When we did that, when we passed that, I guess it was a resolution to, I was not a part of that vote, number one, so I don't know how it was worded.
It was just a motion, it wasn't a resolution.
Okay, so that motion that we passed, I was not a part of that vote. What, did it specifically say interim city administrator, or did it just say for this, to put that into the city administrator's hands? My question is, did it say specifically to Kenny, or did it just say to the city administrator? Because if it just said city administrator, our new city administrator can do that, whether it be Kenny or Chris Dorsey or Mr. Quick. How is that worded?
We might ask Ms. Ashley to read the minutes. I don't recall the exact wording for that. So I don't want to just guess. You know,
the wording is very important.
Rule number one in the lawyer's vocabulary is not assume is not a right word.
I'm 99% sure.
That's quite a while ago.
If it just says city administrator, then it's different. If it says, I think we need to know that for certain.
It'll take me a few minutes to find that.
Was your motion, I'm pretty sure it said direct interim city administrator Kenny Pearson, like by name and interim.
I do think it mentioned him by name.
Okay, that answers that
But
question.
then, so if it's kind of a conundrum, but I mean, so if it's city if it's the interim, then depending on how it turns out, it's whoever would be city administrator then.
Well, I would assume that that authority would just pass to the current city administrator. Mr. Worsham, would that be correct?
I would think so, yes.
I think we'd be covered so long as that did. So I accept Mr. Worsham's comments.
I would think so, although I'm not sure of that, but since he was the acting city administrator at that time and was vested with all the duties of a city administrator, irrespective of whether or not his name was mentioned, I think it would be appropriate that he be the one that be directed to take the action.
Well, if he's no longer city administrator, or he may or may not be.
Well, he won't be city administrator until we hire somebody and swear him in, so he'll still be city administrator tomorrow.
I think I would like to leave that on the agenda because I think we need to leave that to the next city administrator. So I'll leave it on the agenda to try to make a new motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll keep the
Do we have a second to Barry's motion?
Could you read it again?
I wrote it down, to either direct, I'll just say, to either direct the city, we'll change the interim, take his name out.
It's either.
To either direct the sitting administrator to immediately bring resolution, or for the board of mayor and aldermen to take back the authority to bring resolution to the Costa Bryce case.
May I make an amendment? Because mine is not for the first part, mine is for the second. To take that back, then we can decide how we want to proceed further.
I'm okay with that.
So just read the second part, that's the motion.
For the board to decide an immediate resolution for the...
Not an immediate, for the board to take back the authority to Mr. Pearson. That is what you said.
Is this the order?
To bring resolution.
For the board to take back the authority given to Mr. Pearson to bring immediate resolution. So meaning, in other words, Kenny does not have to make that decision tonight. That is what I'm...
Right, to put this back on the board.
To put this back on the board, not on Kenny. That is my, if you will agree to that amendment, that's what this is. This brings it back to the board. And
for resolution tonight.
for resolution tonight.
To discuss resolution.
How, I guess we're going to discuss this, but I don't know how.
Yeah, well, that's why, I just want to get it on the agenda so that we can have the discussion, is all that I want to, been trying to do.
It'll be the second item before the...
And if we don't like it, then we just don't do anything. But I just want to get it on to discuss.
Well, I want to get it on to take it off of Kenny. That's
Mr. Mayor, please have Ms. Ashby read the motion again so there's no confusion about it.
I would like to put an item on the agenda to discuss resolution of the Costa Bryce case. We'll just leave it like that. And then we can.
No, I won't second that. No, that's not my intent to second. I apologize, I revoked my second.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I just want to have the discussion, is it?
You want me to read the motion?
Yeah.
To either direct city administrator?
No. I'm sorry, simplified. To a discussion for the board of mayor and aldermen to bring resolution to the Costa Bryce case. And we can decide how to do that in that discussion. I didn't think it was going to be overly complicated. I just wanted to get it on there to talk.
Read the motion.
Motion to discuss to bring resolution to the Costa Bryce case.
Yes. Matter. Let's say matter, not case.
Okay, we've got a motion, and you seconded that motion.
Derek seconded that motion.
You seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Yes or no? That passes 4-3. To add that item to the agenda. With that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as previously published with the 2 amendments as we made tonight to add 2 items.
We don't need a motion, we just vote.
We've got a motion.
Yeah, we vote on the agenda as amended.
You ready to vote on the agenda as amended? Passes 7-0. With the approval of the agenda, we'll turn now to reports from the Alderman. Alderman Michael, we'll start with you tonight.
Okay, so the past few weeks, I was out sick. I don't know whether to be thankful or sad that I missed the Planning Commission last week, because it was a doozy from what I hear and from what I have reviewed. And so I apologize to the constituents for missing that. I did actually test positive for COVID. I've called it the COVID kidney infection, because for those of you out there, I didn't have any symptoms of what was regular COVID symptoms. I had what felt like a kidney infection and lower back pain. And I did not test positive until the end of day 2 of symptoms. So just with that starting back up, wanted to let people know that symptoms are not like the first COVID round. We did interviews last week for the city administrator position. We interviewed Mr. Pearson and Mr. Quick and Mr. Dorsey, and I would have to say that all 3 did a fantastic job and brought a lot of great ideas and energy to the table. And I want all candidates to know that we're very thankful to have you all want to come and be a part of the city of Tullahoma. I read a kind of a scathing review in the Tullahoma News about my comments on the SROs. I would like to clarify that I absolutely 100% support SROs in our school system, and I support them having whatever it is that they need to effectively do their job. And I would like to remind the public that I was the first person who said that 2 SROs to the city school system was not enough, that we needed one in every school, and was happy that we were able to get that in every school. And I would like to ask Mr. Mayor, as next month we should be reconsidering, Mr. Mayor should be reconsidering board appointments. I have now been on this board. This will be my last year on this board of this term, and I have asked every year to be on the airport authority. And if those of you in the public who don't know, that's something near and dear to my heart. My grandfather, we have our own airstrip. Yes, it is FN 39 Almacher Airstrip, and it's out on Blackburn Lane, and we've had it since the 1970s. And I would love to serve on the airport authority if you would give me that opportunity, as well as potentially the school board, since there are 2 individuals on this board that have teaching licenses and have served many years in the school system, happen to know a little bit about that. I do believe it should be one of us 2 on that school board. So I wanted to throw that out there to Mr. Mayor and to the public, that those are the boards that I would like to serve on this year. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Berry.
Since we last met, I went to, I don't know if anybody know that we had a planning commission meeting that we had last week. I do want to mention, because it did come up on the impact fees, that is something that we did discuss, and we're going to have a study session with the planning commission on those impact fees, so that we can start talking about how to do that, what we need to do, and to look at those, because I 100% agree that it's important. You don't want to cost everybody out from new, but you also don't want to place all of the costs of new development on the existing residents, and I think that that's a great way to look at that. We've also got some study sessions planned to look at, once we get the revenue study or economic impact study, to look at cost on things like what it costs to do the police, what it costs to do, so that we'll get some of those. I think that many of you have raised this a couple times, and you're right, is planning commission level, and even some on the BOMA, is we've heard these things, but we've not stopped and taken action on doing some of these costing things. And so we are taking that action, and Mr. Rush is putting those study sessions together. I'm probably going to step in it here. Some comments on the comments that were made at a board meeting from citizens a couple weeks ago in our special study session. I think that as a citizen, you're entitled to root or cheer for whomever you want, and for whatever reason you want. If you want to call me and lobby for somebody for city administrator because they wear the same style pants as you, that's your opinion, and that nobody should dog you for that opinion. It carries the exact same weight as somebody who says we should do it on experience only, right? You're entitled to that opinion. And so I think that as we, community, and the opposite of that is true as well. And I think as we as a community, one of the things that we, myself included, is everybody's opinion is the same, in ways the same, regardless of how they've formulated that opinion. And I'll probably step in it here again, is we keep getting kind of snide remarks on intent and things like that. And I think that from my viewpoint, that matter's taken care of. It has been resolved in a court. And I think that whichever way that issue had gone, you would have been expected to respect the court's decision. And that's something that, again, it is your opinion, but I don't know that we as a board have ever addressed anything like that. And I don't know that we as a board should, but I am, from mine, is it's decided and it's done. And it's time to move on to the next from that. And that is all that. Good luck to the candidates in each of the things this evening. No matter what happens, it's not a personal thing. It's just whatever we collectively decide. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Glee.
Just a couple comments. I thought it was a little strange before the last board meeting when Mr. Worsham made his report and told us that we would not be liable as a city for the decisions made by the Planning Commission. And then I watched the Planning Commission the other night, and I kind of understood a little more why he was giving us that background on it, possibly. But the comment then I will have is I'll reserve for when we are, since we did add that to the agenda tonight, to discuss the Planning Commission or not specifically the Planning Commission, but growth and things like that in Tullahoma that Ms. Wilson added. I'll just, the rest of my comments I'll say for that.
In reference to a resume, for us to be looking at a resume and deciding who the city administrator, in my opinion, is not the best way to do it. First of all, I would like to see the people eye to eye, see how they handle the pressure, and then go from there. That's what my feelings are. Resumes are, when I was at Tullahoma High School and I had to interview many people for coaching positions, and I would look at their resume and I wouldn't go much further than that. I want to sit down with you, I want to talk to you, and I want you to tell me and I want to see how you react. And that's what we did with these three, and they all reacted very well.
Alderman Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor. As we all did, I attended the special called session about the city administrator position. And I will say that we had some really great candidates. And it's an important position, and I think that, resumes are important. Also, we had scoring system that was in place, which kind of helped a little bit. And then, to me, an interview goes a long way as well. So I look forward to seeing how that goes today. And I think all the candidates were awesome, and you've done a great job, Mr. Pearson. We've got some great candidates tonight for the TUA board as well. So thank you to all the candidates that put your interest in, and look forward to that as well.
Alderman Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. going to be starting soon. MTAS has finished their legal update of our charter, and they will be getting that to us this week, possibly next week. We'll be getting together, Mr. Worsham, Lori, hopefully Sue, and our city administrator to look over that, and then we'll hopefully be bringing administrator candidates. And the good news to this whole situation is we can't go wrong. We have 3 great candidates, all of which who have great qualifications and leadership ability. The bad news is we have 3 great candidates, and we've got to select one. So I appreciate all of them for putting their names forward and for going through this process, and look forward to that too.
Thank you, sir. As for me, I did attend the infamous Planning Commission last week. I also attended the TUA board meeting and the Green Tullahoma meeting, so all a fairly busy agenda. With that, I'd like to return to our city attorney for his report.
Mr. Mann, you are far more ambitious than I in thinking that very soon we're going to have the new charter to come to this board. It's going to be quite a task to look at our old charter. 1903 was when it was rechartered. We started out in 1852 and revised that to bring it up today. But anyway, we'll start working on that in the next couple of weeks. But it may be a little bit longer than y'all think, so don't hold your breath, please. Secondly, I met with Ralph Graham yesterday. He is a horticulturist that has designed the new downtown planting program for us. He has designs ready. We're neighbors, so it was easy for me to walk down to his house and look on his computer for those. Mr. Mann's on that committee, Mr. Glick, and several others, JP and Lyle, and we'll be getting together soon and looking over those and bringing them to the board, and then we'll be asking for some funding. In the meantime, we're doing some private fundraising, and recall that the Tullahoma Noon Rotary Club has pledged $15,000 toward that project. Thirdly, why I want to tell you all that I've enjoyed everything that I'm doing here. I didn't enjoy the Planning Commission meeting last time. I hope that some way we can streamline those meetings a little bit so that we won't have to spend so much time in issues. Thank you very much.
I'll turn to our interim city administrator.
Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks since our last meeting. Of course, I was in the interview, so I did do that process. I want to recognize one of our employees, Leon Williams, Employee of the Month. The citizen had recommended him. He went over after they went. They missed some trash cans. They went back. He actually checked all the trash cans in the little community to make sure everybody's was dumped. So Leon Williams was nominated and voted upon, so he did get the Employee of the Month. We're very appreciative to have great employees like him. I did attend the 41A Festival meeting at the seafood place, which was this past week. The annual 41A Festival will be September 29th and 30th. It's going to go back down to the downtown area. So they're very excited about that. I did get the honor to speak with the Sunrise Rotary Club in the last 2 weeks as well. So I did do a talk for them. We did also close on the Little Angels Daycare grant. We actually closed that out, so the owner will be able to purchase the property and won't have to shut down. That's been an ongoing, about the last 2 years that we've been working on that, getting that settled in. Luckily, we had some people that stepped up and purchased the house before it was sold out from under, and in that process, we were able to get this grant for her, and I think it's for $220,000, and they're going to be, she'll be able to purchase the daycare and keep the daycare service open, and she'll also be able to hire a couple more employees. So that was great. Other than that, that's all I had.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pearson. I want to add one thing to information from, let you know what's going on with TDOT and the Wilson Avenue widening and how it affects the Oakwood Cemetery. When we last dealt with TDOT, they had a requirement that they would withhold $7,000 from the award that we were getting to do that. They were buying the property at the city, at the cemetery. But in order to do that, we had to take down part of the fence. In order for TDOT to do that, to move on with the project, they told us we need to have that fence down. Then our contract with the TDOT and the city, to have that fence removed by the 5th of September. And I believe that we'll get that done. So you'll see some work going on at the cemetery. So when you see that, it gives some indication that TDOT's moving. Since 2002, they're finally getting around to doing that. So that's all I have. So with that, we'll start with the consent agenda. Since we've approved the agenda, we just need to read the caption there and get that approved. So minutes from the August 7th meeting, special call meeting, the minutes from the August 14th meeting, regular meeting, and 23-142 to set a public hearing on first reading for the September the 11th on a request to rezone the property at 409 East Warren Street from commercial C2 to neighborhood commercial C3. 22-143 to set a public hearing, the first reading for September the 11th on request to rezone the property on East Lauderdale Street. That's from general commercial zoning C2 to neighborhood commercial C3. Item 23-144, set a public hearing, first reading for September the 11th on a text amendment on the zoning ordinance for home occupation. And the last one is item number 23-145 to announce 3 vacancies on the Tullahoma Arts Council and to consider application for interested citizens to serve on the remainder of unexpired terms ending August 12th and through the 2024. And I'll serve from August 12th, 2024 and August 12th, 2025. The reason that's on here again is we had this on last month's agenda. It didn't get any application, so I'll just send that notice out one more time. So I need a motion to approve this consent agenda. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis. Ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Going into unfinished business. Ordinance number 1600, an ordinance of the City of Tullahoma to amend the ordinance number 1578, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2023. This is for passage on the third and final reading.
Mr. Mayor, hang on a second. This is for the item we added.
Yeah, it says consider a date for the study session.
Yeah, they asked to do this first.
Yeah, we moved that to the agenda.
Consider a date for the study session.
We did that we asked to do that under the first item under new business.
Unfinished business.
This is unfinished business, so I guess, Laura, it needs to be moved down to under new business. Yeah.
Okay, that was under the first item under unfinished business.
So this is what you just read?
Yes.
We have a motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. Any questions? Any comments? This is the passage on third and final reading. Passes 7-0. Order number 1601, an ordinance to amend the section 5-501 Code of Ordinance of the City of Tullahoma to change the percentages of hotel privilege tax collected and allocated herein. This is also passed on third and final reading. Motion from Barry, seconded by Glick. Any comments from the City Finance Administrator? Vote, ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1602, an ordinance of the City of Tullahoma to adopt by reference state traffic offenses and rules of the road for passage on the second and final reading. Need a motion on the second. Motion from Barry and a second from Mathis. Then I'll turn to our city recorder to offer background.
Again, this is just to pass the rules of the road so that we can keep some of the fine money within the city and not report it to the Department of Safety.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. Thank you to one of our constituents, Miss Elizabeth Bowen. Unfinished business on that number 1 that we just passed. There's a typo on that. We need to make sure and correct. It should be, we're adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024.
No, that's for last year's
No,
budget.
this is correct.
This is for last year's budget, the last passage for the cleaning up.
Oh,
last
where we're
year's budget.
cleaning it up from last year, where we changed it. Okay. Oh, okay. Never mind. I thought the same thing, so thank you.
Ready to vote?
I didn't support this, but I do, questions were raised about, are we going to use this to get more income? And I know that it really wouldn't be possible, but I would like to make sure that this time next year, I'd like to track the year over year.
Okay.
If it's substantially more than, it's obviously going to be more because we're collecting, but if we're writing substantially more in certain areas, then I'd like to make sure that we have a reason this time next year. And that's not saying anything negative, but that is a concern.
Motion very seconded by Mathis. Ready to vote. That passes 7-0. Okay, now we're ready for new business. And the first item under new business is the discussion of subdivision, the regulations and et cetera. So, Alderman Wilson, you raised this motion for discussion, so the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mayor. So I brought this up because I know that we're getting the cart before the horse on some of this development. And Shelbyville has already realized their mistakes with some of their growth and have already implemented a moratorium because, I think that we need to kind of just be cautious with where we're going and kind of have maybe some group efforts of the Planning Commission, the BOMA, some city, even some, citizens to just discuss what that looks like. And I think that we all kind of need to be on the same page with, things like when I look at the couple of the subdivisions that I realized that the PUD was pushed down the road. But there were 2 subdivisions on there, one Springfield Estates, one Short Springs Road. And when I look at these, both of these developments, there is there's departments that are supposed to give a report on what they feel about the developments. And on one, there's, the economic department, no comment, Parks and Rec, no comment, fire department, no comments, building official, no comments. I think that we should be getting comments on, even including our school system. I think there's a lot of ideas. I think that we have, obviously we need housing in the city. I'm a realtor. I see that there's a need for housing, but it's also important to get it right. As a realtor, I don't want to sell houses to people that are going to be plagued with issues, these neighborhoods. I don't think it's, we've had a lot of citizens come out and discuss, how these directly impact, their lives, and I think that those are valid concerns that need addressed as well. So, I was just kind of looking at how Shelbyville has done this, and I think that it would do us a lot of good to take a little heed. And, in Shelbyville, it gave them a chance to be able to work on things without being inundated with plans and reviews when they did the 6 months moratorium on major subdivisions. And then that way we can study the rules, look at what's working, what's not working. We can talk about things such as impact fees. Because I was just looking at just one of these subdivisions, or what was on the agenda last time. When you look at 2 people per unit, that was basically a 20% increase in the number of people that would be living in Tullahoma on the last agenda. At 1.5 cars per unit, that's 15% increase in the number of cars in Tullahoma. So that's going to be more money that we're going to have to spend on repaving roads, not to mention creating the roads. At one school-age child per unit, which I suspect there would be more, that would be a 10% increase in the number of children in our school system. So shouldn't we have a report for each subdivision from the school system that says, right now, this is how many kids that we'd be able to take? If you look on average, what it costs on average for a Tennessee school to be built, it's $42 million. So let's just take this one subdivision. I did some basic math on the one that was on Short Springs. Whenever I kind of average out, or not even average, when I look at the city tax per house, even the most tax for the 2 neighboring subdivisions was about $2,000 for the city tax a year. So if you take 99, that's, let's round up, it's $100,000 that's going to bring in a year. How is that going to pay for an extra fire department? How is that going to put in the roads? How is that going to, there's a plethora of things. We're going to need more staff at to hire more teachers. There's going to need to be a principal at a new school. I mean, so if we go ahead and start working on these subdivisions, where are the children going to be going to school if we don't even know if we can fit them in the schools? And there was a time when we were considering other major subdivision, and at that time, Mary Semeniago said that that once that property owners submitted a formal application, that at that point, that itemized studies would need to be required when a formal application is submitted. Those studies at that time included a traffic study, a hydrology study, maintenance program for the greenway/trail system, architectural renderings, phasing schedule. I didn't see any of this take place. In that one subdivision on Short Springs, it's 99 units in there. Again, I thought that it was 30, that you had to have an extra access point road to come in if it was more than 30. So right now, there is a lane that would be stubbed out, but it leads to an agricultural piece of land that is agricultural. There's no roads back in there. I mean, I want to see housing. I think that most people that I talk to want to see housing, of course, but we have to be responsible with how we're doing it. And I think that we need to start seeing truly the staff. We need comments in there. to know for with each one that we pass, do we have the resources that are needed in order for this to happen? And there's roughly maybe 200 in the neighboring subdivisions in this one on Short Springs. There's roughly over 200 citizens that live in the neighboring subdivisions, and a lot of them have with concerns that haven't really been answered. And I think that we just need to take a step back and all have some study sessions, get on the same page with where we're going. We don't need to have a ship sailed with no groundwork of a map of where we're going. And I also understand so the person that owns the land has a right to do what they want. But I will also say, as a realtor, I would never sell a piece of land to someone that was interested in a piece of land without due diligence first, to get all these things in place before you purchase the land, to know if you can use the land the way that you want. So you can't have 200 people trumped by one person's interest. And I think these are all things that we need to consider before we move forward on some of these.
Alderman, up first.
Yes, I actually looked at the moratorium when the Shelbyville Times-Gazette published that article a few months ago, and you're correct that the main problem was there was too much growth that happened at such an alarming rate, and much of it was growth that happened because it's become really costly for farm owners to continue to maintain their farms, and many of them have sold off because it was much more lucrative to sell those to developers, and also lucrative for the developer to develop. And so, we are a capitalist country, and so I balance this with the idea of, if don't tell me, I understand my dad probably owns 1,000 acres, don't tell us what to do with the land that we own. So you kind of balance that with the idea of the rights of the developer and the rights of the property owner. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is the city and the city's infrastructure and the city services that we will have to maintain. And so it's my job, as I sit up here on this board, to balance the interests of that. And also the interests of current landowners and current citizens, not necessarily the prospective future landowners and future residents. Although I do think that their rights are important too, we want to conserve what we can to make Tullahoma continue to be and have the best tomorrow it can. So I think that a moratorium that possibly was only triggered in certain instances. We don't want to just stop building completely in its tracks, but perhaps a moratorium that was triggered by, we didn't do any new rezones for 6 months. Okay, so no new rezones. The land would have to be already zoned, for whatever you would need it for. No PUDs for 6 months. No developments that require water mitigation or retention ponds for 6 months, so that we can look at our area as a whole and look at what we want to do with our long-term growth initiatives and plans. Again, the state is really emphasizing this because we're losing farmland at such an alarming rate, to consider conservation easements and land trusts. And they're working out some things in this next legislative session that we might want to be aware of first, or even our landowners that are considering either A, developing, or B, selling that land to a developer. There may be some options for them that they might want to take part in rather than sell that land to a developer, or B, develop their land. So, and they may regret not waiting to see what those options are with the next administration and next General Assembly coming in and seeing what they're going to offer there. I also think that it's very important that we define subdivision, and that we have our categories of R1, R2, and R3 are much too broad. We've continued to have a lot of rigmarole about that the latitude is too wide. And, I mean, there's been talk about, as long as they fit just in the box, well, that box is, I mean, we could ship that box, anywhere we wanted to go, I mean, because that box is way too wide. So we need to start narrowing some of these parameters, but in the meantime, rather than having things on the books, if we're going to revise that R1, R2, R3, we don't need people stuck in the middle of going, well, does the new rules apply or do the old rules apply? And because they won't even have started building. So a moratorium, a short-term moratorium that was only triggered in certain instances, I think would be the best option for Tullahoma to move forward, especially if we're going to start changing some of that, our subdivision regulations, and discussing impact fees and such. So that's mine.
Alderman Berry?
Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible idea. I think that, like to have, obviously legal there and to see what we can and can't do. It was Bedford County that did the moratorium. Bedford County's Planning Commission. It was a 6-month moratorium on major subdivisions and planned unit developments. So it was kind of targeted to specific. I don't think that it's a terrible, I think it's worth talking about, right, and having a study session. I do think that if we said it's 6 months, or if we said it's 8 months, that in that time, we need to act and do something. We've been talking about this stuff none of this is new. None of this is new. We've been talking about land use issues. We've been talking about impact fees. We've been talking about doing all these kinds of things, but neither the Planning Commission nor this board has actually done anything about it. And so I think that if we do a moratorium, but we don't act, and we don't actually take that time to do something, then it's just a waste of time. It's kind of a big hammer, to do. But if we do need that, let's take a breath. Something that I was a little late getting on this agenda, and it was going to be on the next agenda, is, we've been working on this plan with the CDPDC and stuff, and it's made some progress, but it's also that comprehensive plan is the center piece of everything that we're talking about, right? That's that foundation that the map that our ship uses to navigate and sail. And so one of the items that I'm going to have on the next agenda is for us to talk about the I can't remember. CPDC. I keep thinking R2D2. CPDC, the Planning Commission, and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. If we need to set up 8 meetings, then we set up 8 meetings. If we need to set up 4 meetings, we set up 4 meetings. And if they need to be 4 hours, then they're 4 hours, but we sit together in that room, we go through that plan. They're going through the 2040 plan, which is 30 pages, and making some changes into that. But if we need to sit there for 4 hours for 8 meetings, then we sit there for 4 hours for 8 meetings, we get it done, we get it to the public, and we start taking action. So that would be I'm all for. I think it seems to be what the community wants. Let's talk about it. Let's take that breath. Let's reset. But dang it, when we're done with it, we better come out of there 100% rocking and rolling and ready to go, and not wasting any more time. I mean, I feel like we've not us, there's been a lot going on, but the Planning Commission's done nothing, and this board has really done nothing. And so, you're right, it's time. Let's do something.
Alderman Glick.
I agree with what Alderman Berry said, that it would be a good idea maybe to have a short moratorium, but like he said, we have to be ready to, and we have to guarantee at the backside of that, we're going to come out with a plan and with action and move on that action. Some specific things I'd like to comment on, what they had said, like Alderman Wilson made the comment about the staff reports to the Planning Commission on these developments. I can't really blame the Planning Commission too much if they're not considering this stuff, if they don't have the information from staff. They'll junk in, junk out scenario. If if there's just a no comment from the fire department on a major subdivision, they would have to assume that, well, it would just fall in business as usual there. I would think there should be a fiscal impact, that they should say, well, we could handle this, but it's going to make a fiscal impact of an extra $300,000 a year to be able to service this many units. I think that would be something that would be valuable information for the Planning Commission to be able to make an educated opinion on. So I think each department ought to say something, even if it's to say, I see no impact upon the Parks and Rec Department to approve this development. It would be better than no comment. They would have a thing to go on. But, and I'm not jumping on the departments. I know that's the way it's been done traditionally, but I think that section was put in there for a reason. It was to give the information to the Planning Commission so they could use that as in part of their decision making. And the other thing that I'll say is the 99 units in that unit with one entrance. Unless I was wrong, I was pretty sure that the regulation was that there had to be two entrances if there was more than 30 units. So how could you approve one that has 99 units with one entrance? The developer even said that stub-out road at the end wasn't going to be a stub-out road, it was going to be a cul-de-sac. So it was a 99-unit cul-de-sac with one entrance. That was violating the rules that we set out, if I'm not mistaken in the way I interpret the rule. So all that stuff I think we need to iron out, especially before we go forward and make any other mistakes. I think Kenny Pearson had the idea of some joint study sessions. So maybe this would be a good time when we have the study session that we're talking about scheduling here, is have a joint study session with the Planning Commission. We all get together and try to get on the same page and see what we're doing. And it might not be a bad time to invite not require, but invite the CPDC members to sit in, and they could be there to comment or answer questions, or else just listen to what's going on. So when they're going forward in their deliberations, they'll have the fresh information. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, let me ask Mr. Rush, our senior planner. I'd like a couple of things in just a moment for you to address. One is to discuss this issue of the no comments from the department head. I know if any of you sat in the development committee meetings, you would hear all the department heads making their comments there. And if there's things that's going to be carried forward to these, they get them aired there. The other thing is you might want to talk about this issue of the stub out versus one entrance on the Short Springs Road. So any other comments that you'd care to make about what you've heard tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. What is it? When it actually comes to you, the plat, we give it to DAC, right? Development Advisory Committee, and they just make the comments regarding the plat. Okay, there's the gas lane here, fire needs this, oh, you know, what is it? The easement for the stormwater needs on the backside. So that's all they're actually commenting on. The second thing, what is it? I guess I heard Alderman Wilson actually address traffic study for Short Springs. We did that. That was a requirement. Anything that's over 90 plats. So that was conducted, and that did get passed. No impact. Since 2019, there's pretty much been a rule that any kind of development that will be allowed, and this was fire approved, that a stub out will count for that. That's just how it's been. We've approved plats like that, and so we'd just be going back on what we've already said. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments on those.
I mean,
there was just the one that was not approved on Avoca Road that wasn't able to, that was put off because of the only one way in.
I can probably name 4 or 5 in the past 8 months, a couple of Joe Denby projects, honestly, that, one that wasn't passed off of Highway 55, and the only reason for it not being able to pass was because he did not have the second method of egress. And I promise you, had Denby known that he could put a cul-de-sac back there, it would have been done. I don't think that's appropriate. And I think that is a scapegoat way of trying to circumvent our rules. And that historically has never been an option or feasible. So I'm not sure what or who told, where did you get that information?
That's actually been approved by the Planning Commission with Alan Howard's projects before, and then several others as well, and that's been something that's been going on through the Planning Commission.
When? What
is it?
project?
So we did do it on, so Jones, that 155 did pass, and he stopped at 30. He was going to do more, but it would have either
But it was
had,
because it had to be under 30, right?
or he could have done the fire lane, but he chose to
Right.
not do the fire lane. This one did do that fire lane. So he is correct. That has been the rule, right? And we have passed other ones doing that, and that has sufficed. What I think, and what I said at the meeting was, yeah, that may be, but I think that somewhere along, and it's not staff's fault, right? Staff is just doing what they have been
We need to
doing.
be on the same page.
And I think that it is a lack of, from us deciding in planning commission, the boards do change, and there are things that happen along the way through previous boards, and we don't kind of stop and review. But the comment that I had made is, yeah, maybe it does. I didn't want to say that it met the requirements, because what I say in that room, but maybe it does meet the requirements, but I don't think that it hit the color of the intent, right? Because it just went to the fore, and then you had 80-something in the back.
And it's
so
a
I think,
cornfield, so-
Right.
yeah, and I think that can be argued. But to his point, that has been the acceptable way since I've been on the commission in the 2 years. I think the first time I was on it was in 2020, and then this year. And we have done that, and it was an option for that off of 55 as well. He just didn't want to do it. I don't know why he didn't do that. I don't know if it would have taken land, or he just decided not to. But
I remember him limiting
He ended up dropping it back down.
below 30 because of that. It was
He
that
could have
reason,
done-
though, wasn't it?
Because he didn't want to do the fire lane.
Alderman
that was an
Royce,
option.
thank you for your comments. I thought that you'd want to
Thank you, Mayor.
weigh in
Appreciate
on
it.
this, so I appreciate that. And for the board, I will remind you that we are having a joint study session with the Planning Commission coming up. The next Planning Commission meeting, that will be with the board and the Planning Commission meeting together. And so we're getting there with that.
Family services.
Okay, with that, let's move on to the other item that we have for.
Are we going to take action on this?
Yeah, we got to set a date. That was the item.
We've got so many things going on with the Planning Commission and the study sessions that we've got, and a potential special call meeting to deal with hiring of the city administrator. And I think we better wait till we get a date that's appropriate for the Planning Commission, all 7 members there, and this board, and we'll set that date.
They can join or not, but really.
As early as practical.
Well, I mean, that, I think, would be the motion, would be to have staff find a date as early as possible that we can all, I don't want to take yours, but I don't want to just punt this, right? I'd say
No,
let's.
we need to, so I would direct staff to find the soonest date that we could all get together, and also, I'm assuming that we'd have to advertise.
That's correct.
So,
That's correct.
I'll second that.
I got a motion and a second to set a study session, a joint study session with the Planning Commission and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen at the earliest appropriate time.
not to exceed, I think that we should probably put,
Put a time limit.
yeah.
Within the next 45 days, something like that, or you,
I think it needs to be pretty
30.
quick.
yeah.
You'll be lucky to get it in within 30 days with a...
Say within 30 days.
But, I mean, I really would like to see the moratorium begin.
I'd like to discuss, I'd like to get that discussion soon. I'll accept the friendly amendment to 30 days, right? Within 30 days schedule?
That means within the next two meetings of our meeting, we can
Point that
potentially.
it's going to be difficult, quite difficult to get this in within that period of time with the Labor Day holiday coming next week. So we've got challenges.
Well, hopefully the planning commission can make a really light agenda coming up so that we don't have any.
I don't know that we can add to that meeting once it's been published. It's a special call, right? Is it a special
No,
call
I think
or a
what
study?
No, I'm saying any new requests coming up for subdivisions.
Until we have the discussion.
Until we have this done.
They have so many days, they have to put
They
it
have
before
to
them.
get, like certain things you have to put on by the next meeting, or you've got 30 days, or there's certain things. But I think we need to get it done, even if it's going to be difficult to do, because I'm tired of punting. I'm tired of punting, and I'm tired of not taking action. We're having the same concerns relayed over and over, and we're not doing anything about it. So if we've got to squeeze in a week's worth of meetings, then we need to do a week's worth of meetings.
Matter of fact, I mentioned that when we were considering the Think Tullahoma 2040 plan, that we needed to have a venture with, a joint venture with the planning commission, that it's went on long enough, I think.
It's overdue. It's overdue to do that. If we say 45 days, it'll be 45 days. If we say 30, it'll probably be 30. So let's say 30.
Yeah, I think within 30.
Yeah.
Too soon? Too quick? Let's say too quick. Okay, we have a motion from Barry, seconded by Alderman. Further discussion? Ready to vote? Passes 6-1 within the next 30 days. You got that? Okay, moving on with new business, we have ordinance number 1603, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Tullahoma as it's set forth in municipal code, which ordinance number 1392, to rezone parcels located in the 100 block of New Rock Creek Road on 2.85 acres from general commercial to neighborhood commercial C3. A motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis. Comments from any comments? Ready to vote? That passes 7-0. The next group of resolutions concerns the appropriations that we make to nonprofits every year. We voted on the amounts to allocate to the nonprofits at an earlier meeting. That has been approved. So at this time, all we're doing is authorizing the allocation of those funds to these respective organizations. So what I'm going to do is combine all 18 of these into one motion. But to do that, I'll read the first motion, then I'll read the organization that we're making the appropriations to. This will be a resolution authorizing appropriations for financial aid of the Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce. With that, the other organizations include the Hands-On Science Center, Historic Preservation Society, the South Jackson Civic Center, Tennessee's Backroads Heritage, Tullahoma Fine Arts Center, Civil Air Patrol, Coffee County Lanham Library, Coffee County Senior Citizens at the Tullahoma Center, a resolution authorizing appropriations for financial aid to the Coffee County Humane Society, the Skills Development Services, the Tennessee Rehab Center, the Tullahoma Daycare Center, South Central Human Resources Agency, Tullahoma Sports Council, Casa Works, it's court-appointed special advocates for children, Horseplay, Imagination Library of Coffee County, and finally for the Tullahoma Community Pride Foundation. Get a motion. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis. Any discussion?
Yes.
Ready to vote? Hold on, Mark.
One quick thing. I just want to clarify something on 120, and I don't know if it needs to be changed. On page 120 of the resolution number 1949, it's for the appropriations to the Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce. Under where it says Section 2, such funds appropriated by the municipality for use. On many of these, it says general operations, but on theirs, it says marketing. I would like for it to specify, if we can just correct that, just to specify that it has to be marketing for the city of Tullahoma, not necessarily marketing for the Chamber of Commerce.
Tell me again, which resolution number?
1949.
Well, I think it's just a simple add that onto that. It's marketing. It says under 1949, page 120, 1949, it says Section 2. It's the part where we say what they have to spend it on, whereas a lot of them say general operations. The one for the Chamber of Commerce, rightfully so, says marketing. However, I think it needs to specify that it needs to be marketing for the city of Tullahoma, not necessarily marketing for people to join the Chamber of Commerce, if that makes sense.
Is that a motion?
I'm making a motion to amend that slightly.
I'll second
Yes.
for discussion.
Okay, motion is second, okay, you're up for discussion.
I'm in favor, so it uses tourism, so some of these are using general fund dollars, the nonprofits, and then these 4 are using tourism dollars. So I obviously agree that tourism dollars should be used for marketing. So I would say if we specify that for the chamber, we also need to specify that for everyone using tourism dollars.
I amend my motion to include every organization that uses tourism dollars. That if one of the appropriation of funds under that section says marketing, then it needs to say marketing for purposes of tourism in the city of Tullahoma, not necessarily marketing for purposes of getting members to their organization, in other words. Do you kind of see what I'm saying, the difference is? Does that make sense?
The only one, everyone else just listed for general operations.
It may not.
That's something that I've always had a problem with. And then I would almost, and I second it for sake of discussion, because I 100% think it needs to be used for marketing, all of the dollars that we give in tourism. But I think it would only be fair to address them all at one time. But I think that at this stage in the game, it's unfair to change.
Like this one specifies regional marketing, okay? So theirs is the most broad one, and because we give them almost, in essence, the single most, it's the largest amount of dollars that we give. I feel like it needs to be a little more specific. Hey, we're not giving you money to increase your and I know they know that. I'm not saying that they're doing that, but to make it very clear, we're not giving you money so that you can invite more people to join the chamber. We're giving you money so that you can invite more people to the city of Tullahoma to shop and.
Well, it does qualify. All such funds shall be used to promote the general welfare of residents of this municipality. It does say that right under it, for clarification.
And also, I remind you that this is the Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce.
Well, that's true.
I second it for discussion, and I do want to change that, but I want to change it next year from where and I don't want to pump that either. I also set a study session now, but we do need to do.
I never really saw quite the right place to to discuss it until I actually saw what the resolution said. But I'm fine with changing it for next year. But I hope that, and I'm sure that the chamber knows, what those funds, but specifically, we want to be able to see, the draw from that. So that's all.
Do you want to withdraw your?
I'll withdraw because I think I've made my point.
Okay, what's made? Ready to vote?
Doesn't specify.
Passes 7-0. Moving on to item number 25, resolution number 1948, a resolution to amend the table of organizations for the Parks and Recreation Department for the city of Tullahoma. That was on page 139, and it's a reorganization of the Parks and Rec that was submitted for your approval. Alderman, see, you've got a motion from Barry, a second from Mann, and Alderman Glick, you're recognized.
I just wanted to say I support this item, and I think the Parks and Rec has done a great job of laying that out, and I guess alongside Kenny. But one addendum I'd like to make to it, not to vote on tonight, but just for the future, I think this would be a good place for the new city administrator to start, would be to look at the entire city's organizational chart, structure, update it where necessary. I think probably there's some of them that are operating outside the currently accepted organizational chart, but if not, let's just get them all in compliance. And I would like to see these organizational charts built out with future growth involved. If they can identify future positions that they may need, I think they should be put in there and grayed out maybe, and saying we need to grow our next, when we get a new staff member, it will be doing X function. And that way it'd be good information item for the finance director and in budget preparations and the board to know what we're looking at, what kind of growth the departments are looking at doing and where it's going to be. And then when these departments ask for it at budget time to add this position, it's not going to be any surprise to us or anybody else. It was all part of the plan. So that will be something for the next city administrator tackle. And I'm sorry I took up your time bringing it up right now, but since we were talking about an organizational chart, I thought it would be a good time to do that.
Any further discussion? Ready to vote? Passes 7-0. Item number 23-146. Consider approval of a musical performance agreement with Morris Productions valued at $8,500 for the Tullahoma Parks and Rec Department of Rock Creek Concert Series. Need a motion? Alderman from Barry, seconded by Mathis. And keep in mind, this is the music performance part of this. There'll be a second agenda item for production. So, no further comment. Ready to vote?
I'll say. I just for advertising purposes for the event, correct me if I'm wrong, recreation staff, but I believe the Journey tribute band that we used to get every year, they've kind of split up, and the lead singer, the Steve Perry of the band, is now in this band. So you may see some different faces, but the front face there is the one you're used to seeing. So I just wanted to point that out.
Not journey.com?
Yeah, it's not journey.com. So don't be surprised if you don't see us listed
Well,
on there.
shoot, I'd already reached out to Oliver Anthony to see if I could get him to come down and do Richmond, north of Richmond.
Thank you for putting your marketing hat.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion? Ready to vote? Passes 7-0. The companion item on this is for the production agreement with Myers Concert Production, and that's for $9,150 for the same operation. So, motion for Barry, seconded by Glick. Any discussions on the production part? Passes 7-0. Next agenda item 23-148 is consider approval of a grant award of $5,000 from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture for forestry for tree plantings at the Arboretum at East Park, and to help with stormwater mitigation and shade planting at Johnson Lane Recreation Area. Keep in mind, this is a 50% match, so it's a total project of $10,000, and $5,000 from the city and $5,000 coming from the grant. Motion from Barry, seconded by Glick. Discussion on that grant. Ready to vote? Passes 7-0. 23-149 is consider approval of the purchase of a 2023 New Way Cobra Freightliner rear loading garbage truck from Municipal Equipment Inc. in the amount of $208,279 and declare surplus. Item number 256, the 256 Model International rear loading garbage truck. It's in your package on 166. Need a motion, Barry, seconded by motion from Barry, and seconded by Mann. With that, I'll turn to the city administrator for comments.
As you know, these are some of the funds that we reappropriated through ARP. This is one of the trucks that we were needing. I do have Mr. Eric Pierce here to talk about it. You'll come up.
This is one of our frontline railroad trucks that we call our junk truck that goes door to door, and it's a 20-year-old vehicle with over 200,000 miles. Parts are getting obsolete and very hard to find on them, and very expensive, so.
Very good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Ready to vote? Passes 7-0. Item number 25-150, consider approval of the purchase of a self-contained breathing apparatus from Safe Industries in the amount of $416,370 for the Tullahoma Fire Department. Motion from Barry, seconded by Glick. Again, I'll turn to the city administrator for comments.
Again, this is another item that we were trying to budget this year that we were able to move over to the ARP funds and take out the loan for the construction portions of that ARP that we moved over. These self-contained breathing apparatuses, since I'm kind of familiar with this, will replace the Avon SCBA's that we have at the present time. Avon has went out of business about 4.5 to 5 years ago. Parts are starting to become obsolete as well. We're having a hard time with those. This is a replacement for those for the firefighters.
Any further discussion? Not ready to vote? Passes 7-0. This time we get down to the appointment to the TUA board. Tonight we have 3 candidates that you heard from earlier, but the city recorder is ready to pass around the ballots.
We have it.
You have a, yes, we do. We have a ballot with Mr. Cole, Ms. Dean, and Mr. Chastain. If you would, please, it's got your name at the top, so we don't have to sign. Okay.
I got it wet.
Barry was Patricia Dean. Allmacher, Patricia Dean. Glick, Patricia Dean. Mathis, Steve Cope. Mann, Patricia Dean. Wilson, Patricia Dean. Noes, Steve Cope.
And that, with that, Ms. Dean, her meetings are on the 4th Tuesday night of the month, so you'll be put on the distribution for the agenda package. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll be there.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Cope, thank you so much for serving on all the boards that you serve on. We certainly don't want to lose you, so don't go anywhere, okay?
It was a hard choice. There
And
was
Mr.
three
Chastain.
great candidates there.
Well, it's understandable, and congratulations. I'm sure you'll do a great job. Great qualification.
Mr. Cope's relatively busy. You won't have any trouble staying busy, I know that.
Personal privilege. Before we do this next one, can we take like a 3-minute break, just in case it gets lengthy?
Recess for 3 minutes.
Trying to figure out who you're going to vote for.
Tonight we have one more item, pretty important item that we have to consider the nominations of selecting an applicant and extending his job offer to the city administrator of the city of Tullahoma effective October the 1st. So at this time, each of you have received a ballot with 3 names on it from Mr. Dorsey, Kenneth Pearson, and Jason Quick. If you would just circle the name, pass them to the city recorded. We'll see how the first round of voting goes.
Are we going to have the opportunity to speak on any, like, before we,
Since it's considered nominations, we still should motion and second, shouldn't we? We didn't do that last time, but technically, you need to have a motion in order to take the vote.
yeah, in order to take the vote, and I feel this is kind of a big deal
We need a motion, second, in a conversation.
in a conversation instead of just circling and
Looking for a
going.
motion on 22-152. Need a motion. Motion by Barry, seconded by Mann. Any discussion?
So
Any no
one,
discussion?
well, clarifying,
Discussion.
You recognize Mr. Barry.
so clarification first. So this is considered nominations. So are we nominating first here, or is this the vote that?
It's a vote. We're selecting someone to extend an offer to.
Okay, so.
Because it says consider
It
nomination.
does say consider nomination. So I think that that's fine, I guess.
I don't think so. I think that we need to nominate, because we may already narrow it down to 2 if we do nominations, the way that we discussed it.
This is correct.
And that's how we've done it in the past too, is we've nominated from the floor, we've had discussion on why we're nominating.
I think
And I
that's
think,
appropriate.
yeah, this is kind of a big, this is a really big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll move into that. You got a motion and a second. Am I recognized?
Yeah, this is, between this and honestly the charter revisions, which I'm not sure how much the town knows about that, but these 2 items are probably the most important thing that this board as a group will do. And I definitely don't think it needs to be something we even rush through the process. And I wanted to reiterate what Mr. Mayor, and just so that the public knows, after our interview process last Thursday, we discussed what this process would look like going forward, and so that becomes kind of public knowledge. And correct me if I'm wrong, we decided that we would take nominations and we would choose a candidate tonight that which we would enter into contract negotiations with, and we would have HR and possibly our city attorney kind of look together at a potential contract and an offer with whatever individual is chosen, and that we would also, which is not on here, so we may need to add this because it's what we said we do, we would set a special called meeting open to the public, that which we would discuss that potential offer and contract. And I want to make it very clear that if we were to set that meeting tonight, I'd want to set the special called for perhaps another evening towards the end of this week. I don't want to diddle-dally with this. I think we'll be glutton for punishment if we do. We need to make this as smooth and as seamless as a transition as possible. I think the best way to do that is to do so quickly.
I'll just go ahead on, please.
I just wanted to offer a little bit different tactic than that, and I was basing it on what I read in the city charter about the city administrator's position. We are not required to have a contract for the position. Jody Baltz was city administrator for 20 years. He never operated under any contract. So it says in the charter that we would hire somebody and they would be under probationary period for 3 months. So my suggestion would be to hire someone, offer them a salary that it's agreeable, that we determine with HR, that is a salary that's agreeable, and that we could negotiate salary too with the candidate, and then they start work. And during that 3 months, if we deem or they deem we need a contract, then we could work a contract out. But I don't think we should enter into any contract unless it's advantageous to the board and to the city of Tullahoma. And according to our ordinance, we don't have to. It's something we can do, but we do not have to. So that's my suggestion.
So if we need
the intent,
We wouldn't need that.
the intent is to structure an offer to a candidate. We're making an offer to a candidate. And that's what we'll do in a special call meeting. As far as a special call meeting goes this week, I'll tell you that I'll not be available for anything this week. I've got this week's committed. So I had planned to have an offer ready by the 5th of September. That's on Tuesday, a week from tomorrow.
Well, then we have to have a meeting before then, and we're all going to be out of town on Monday.
This would be a special call, well, whatever, a week from tomorrow, whatever, that's the 6th.
Mr. Mayor.
Could we not,
If you're not available this week, there'd be no way to have that meeting then. And we'd have to have that meeting before you can extend an offer.
No, I think he's
No,
preparing the offer.
this is for you.
Presenting.
For you to review the offer that we want to make.
Okay, so potentially have the meeting a week from tomorrow.
That's correct.
And that would give Ms. Lisa time to do all that.
I have discussed that with Ms. Shepherd, and she says that she can have it.
So we could have just job duties in lieu of a contract and potentially discuss a contract at the end of the probationary period.
yeah, we could work on the contract during the probationary period, and we may not even enter into a contract. We do the same 20-year thing Jody Balls did.
Be a city employee.
Be a city employee. That's an option I would like to discuss further on that Tuesday. I think we go ahead and just say we're going to have a special called meeting on next Tuesday evening.
That's when, the next time that I'd be available.
So September 5th.
So,
Whatever a week from tomorrow is.
so what we'll be doing would be selecting the candidate tonight. The offer will be determined, and then we'll vote on that next Tuesday at a special call meeting?
Yes.
What I hope to be able to do is to sometime this week, toward the end of this week, perhaps by Friday, is to be able to send out to you a draft copy of the offer, so that you'd be prepared to come at special call meeting on next Tuesday to make a decision on it. That's the plan.
What time?
5:30.
Can we do like 5:45? I coach K through 3rd football, and we've missed 2 weeks because of the heat, and I'd love to be able to,
Can we just say 6 o'clock? That'd be fine with me.
because we got games starting, and I'd love to get some practice in with them. I know that's selfish, but it's for the kids.
And it should be a fairly quick meeting, 6 o'clock.
And we need to have the announcement to go out as well. So
6 p.m.
Meet all your required time. Okay.
6 p.m. 6 p.m. next Tuesday.
Any further discussion?
The only other discussion I would have is just.
We're ready for nominations. Floor is open for nominations.
We got to nominate somebody.
We're going to do nominations. You want to nominate somebody, Mr. Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to nominate someone.
Go ahead.
I nominate Jason Quick.
Jason Quick, been nominated. Any other nominations? I'm going to nominate Kenny Pearson. Someone needs to nominate Christopher Dorsey. Okay. There's no other nomination. We're ready to vote. We have 2 candidates selected.
I want to speak first before we vote. I don't know that it will matter, but I want to speak. We had 3 candidates, and I think that they each bring their own attributes and their own qualifications. Mr. Dorsey has the most, on paper, he is the most qualified, and he has the most experience. Mr. Quick brings his background and his experience. Mr. Pearson brings his background and his experience. I talked to all of the department heads, about 20 different employees. I had a survey that had 408 responses, and then I talked to over 150 people myself by phone, text, and I count some emails in there. And when I made my decision, it was tough, right? Because you got to look at, obviously, experience, but you can't look at just experience alone, I think, in this situation. So questions that I asked myself were themes that I got from the when I had reached out and talked to department heads and employees in cities, and experience and qualification was a big thing. Local ties versus the fresh perspective was a thing. Leadership and their ability to be independent but play by the rules. Ethical standards and transparency was a theme. One of the things that somebody said was, we need a city administrator that's not afraid to point out conflicts of interest. I didn't pick that one out specifically. I just had a growth in infrastructure and somebody who understands the candidate should be forward-thinking and adept at city planning. And when I talked to the department heads and the city staff, that weighed heavily with me. Because I don't know police and fire or planning and codes, and I'm not the one that they're going to be working for. Maybe indirectly down the chain, they're going to. Some things that I had heard about Kenny Pearson was that he was a leader, and they spoke about the collaboration that is happening now within the departments, which is something that it's kind of a breath of fresh air was one of the terms that was used. The stability that we see here and their ability to trust him. We're in a point in our history, like Ms. Almacher had said, that this is probably one of the most important decisions that we're going to make, but it's important because of the things that are on our plate, in our city's plate right now, when it comes to the growth and the infrastructure and the ability of our departments and our department heads and the ability of the leader to may not know everything, right? And there may be gaps in knowledge. I can go to Google and I can get the answer to anything that I want, but I have to know the right question to ask Google to get that answer. And so for me, when I looked at the things that we have in motion and I looked at that, we've got a capital plan that's going on right now. We have ARPA funds that are going on that we're trying to do right now. We have projects like the Ledford Mill widening. We have the Cedar Lane sidewalk project. We have the possible transportation project. We've got 20, 30 projects in motion right now, and that's not everything. And so my first vote here will be for Kenny Pearson, because I think that it's not a doubt, and I'll support whoever, it's not a doubt against anybody else, but it is, Kenny spent 6 months catching up on all this based off the experience that he already brought to the table. And any other candidate that we have before us right now, we're resetting. And the things that we've talked about tonight, the impact fees and knowing the departments and knowing these different things, again, it's not a slant or a slight against anybody, but it will set us back at least 8 months, 6 months or more to get caught up on everything that we've got going on right now. And then you also have to have the time to build the rapport with the staff, to build the respect of the department heads. They're going to work with anybody, right? But they're still going to have that getting to know you time. And Kenny, over the past, I can't believe it's been 6 months. Thank you for doing that for 6. I don't think that was ever the intent. Has progressed throughout that. And I think that he has managed well. He has brought unity. When I walk into City Hall now, it's a completely different feeling. It's a completely different vibe. And I mean, that's when my vote's going to go, and those are the reasons that I'm going to vote for Kenny, because I think that we have a lot in motion right now, and anybody else, I think, kills that. Doesn't kill it, but it slows and it steps back, and it puts a lot of these things on the back burner.
Alderman Almacher, you're recognized. Comment?
Oh, can I add one more thing? Oh, sorry. It also shows our staff that you can come to work for the city of Tullahoma and start off as a volunteer fire or start off in our fire department, and you have the potential to work up. We always talk about investing in ourselves. That's investing in your staff. That's investing in your employees. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So, one thing I'd like to say to the public is, no matter how this vote ends up tonight, be kind. You know, y'all talk about me, but let me tell you something. Y'all are not very kind to me. So, you know, be kind. There is absolutely no one up here who is taking this lightly or this decision. We have now narrowed it down to two, I'm assuming, qualified, excellent gentlemen who would serve this city with such integrity, and there is no wrong choice. And so I've had people message me and go, why are you drinking this Kool-Aid, or why are you drinking that Kool-Aid, or you know, people are watching you, and it's almost like a threat of, or I've been accused of being buddy-buddy with Kenny, or I've been accused of being buddy-buddy with Jason, and I know other people on this board have had that too, and that it couldn't be further from the truth. We have all taken this this process so seriously to try to do what is best for the city of Tullahoma going forward, and it is time for our city to move forward, and all of that needs to stop. And I hope that this will be that culminating moment, regardless of the decision, that will forge our city back together in unity, no matter who the decision is. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, please pass your ballots to the city recorder.
Mann, Quick. Wilson, Quick. Almacher, Quick. Berry, Pearson. Noes, Pearson. Mathis, Quick. Glick, Quick.
Congratulations.
I'm fine with that.
And we've had the discussion about setting a special call meeting to review the process for making the offer. We'll do that.
Are we making the offer after the meeting on Tuesday?
Can we make it at the meeting? I mean, I think that's appropriate.
Well, we're going to structure the offer at that meeting, and I think it'd be appropriate for to make the offer at once we've done the offer, we'll make the offer after we have arrived at it on that night.
Are we inviting the chosen candidate to that meeting? And then make the offer and see if he's prepared to accept it that night? I'm just trying to get the strategy down so everybody knows where we're going
I
here.
plan to do that. Let's structure the offer, and then we'll make the offer to the candidate at a date following.
No, I think that it's appropriate to do it that evening. If he's willing to accept it, he may not be willing to accept it, and I think we need, at that meeting, part of the agenda, let me go ahead and get this so that we are very clear, since we cannot change the agenda, should be to set a start date as well.
I'd very much prefer to structure an offer, have our city attorney review it, and have the city attorney review it, and then make the offer to the candidate after it's been reviewed by legal counsel.
Right, which would be on Tuesday night.
If you're going to have an offer kind of prepared for us to review, I'm sure that you can get with Mr. Worsham sometime throughout this week, because we've even talked about possibly not having a contract. It could just be potential job duties and a dollar amount. So
I can't have a contract ready for the board to look at.
We don't need a contract, Mr. Worsham.
Well, you're using the word contract, but we're actually just...
complicated than just having a meeting and making an offer.
We don't need a contract.
Yeah, we're not doing the contract.
No, we won't have a contract. We won't be able to do that.
just be the offer.
Yes, that's all we need.
Okay.
Yeah, well, if that's, all I'm bringing up is that if we have the candidate here and make the offer at the meeting, if all the board is here, if he made a counteroffer, then we could consider that without having to have another meeting and dragging this out another
30 days.
30 days or a month, or a month or 30 days, what's the difference? But,
I think we should be prepared to have a start date.
yeah.
Can I ask two things? One, first, will one of you ask for a vote of reconsideration so that we can revote and show 100% solidarity? Second, can I proffer, I get what these two are saying, so when we word the special called session, can we word it so to the effect of, we'll present the offer, negotiate the offer,
And set start date,
and set a start date dependent upon
if we have an agreement.
if we have an agreement. So that way, it's at least in the agenda for the special call meeting. We can decide to not if for some reason we don't want to, right? Right. But it's in there, but we can't do it if it's not in the agenda item menu. So I would say let's at least stick it in there. But for some reason, we get an offer and there's negotiation back and forth, and he says, hey, I'd like to think about this for a week. We're not bound to it, but we could, well, maybe you want to negotiate back and forth on television. I mean, that'd be fun.
It would be nice just to move forward.
It would, but, so I think if we word the agenda that way.
Tonight is for it'd be effective October the 1st is what we voted on tonight.
Where did we vote?
Where did we vote?
Where did we vote?
October 1st.
Item number 23-152.
Oh, it does say that. It does say that. So your start date's October 1st.
That's too far out with all the things that we have going on. It's just September 1st.
Not too far out.
So I think that we can achieve all that, but all we need to do is say, in the special call meeting, let's talk about reviewing the offer, negotiating with the candidate, include in there, set a start date. If we don't want to set the start date, we don't have to. If we're ready to, we can, but we can't do it if it's not in the agenda, in the
On or
special call.
before October 1st. That way we can set it whenever.
I think that he might want to do some training with our interim, a week or two there to get acquainted with the city. I think that might be appropriate before October the 1st.
That's what was intended, that was the intent of this conversation. The intent of what.
Okay.
That's fine. I think that we can leave it there, and if we want to change it in the special call meeting, then we change it at that time. But we just need to
Make sure
include.
the latitude
Let's
is there
include
to
that
do that.
let's make sure we've got the latitude to make the decisions that we want to make in the special call meeting.
Okay, there'll be a special call meeting on 6th, 6 o'clock, 6th at 6.
Will somebody reconsider?
It's the 5th.
I will, you've been nice to me tonight.
Tuesday, September 5th.
Negative.
At 6 o'clock.
I know, okay, so in the spirit of moving forward in unity, even though I'm normally against these things, I will make a motion to reconsider the vote so that we can all recast in unity. Somebody will second.
I can second that. I'll second that.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Do we have to circle again?
Yeah.
I guess this is why there's a second one.
Here you go. I got 3.
Now I got 3.
We got a motion and a second. We're ready to vote.
Oh, wait a minute.
Well, you gotta do this.
You need one, I can scratch one out.
I just did it.
The record will still reflect the first vote, so it's not getting out of that, but it is to show that moving forward,
That you have,
the support of the full board.
Second go round.
Do we have, there's the motion and the second.
We got a motion and a second. We're ready to vote.
I need it again because I wasn't ready.
The motion was to reconsider the previous vote.
you got a second.
Yeah, I just needed the motion.
Need a motion, and we got a motion and a second, and we're ready to vote. And we voted by changing, everyone sending in a separate note. Being no other new business, we'll adjourn the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting.
Well, you need to announce that,
There's another item.
well, you need to announce that quick one again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you do need to. That was the reconsideration. Yeah.
The reconsideration of the board is a unanimous decision to select
Hang on, let's do it right.
Mr. Quick for
Let's
us
do
to
it. So there had to be,
submit an offer once we have formulated that offer. Congratulations again, Mr. Quick. You have the support of the board.
We need to back up. Sorry, point of order, Mayor. We need to back up real quick. Sorry to make it difficult. We had to vote on the reconsideration. That's passed. Now we need a motion to accept Jason Quick.
I make a motion to
Sorry.
accept Jason Quick.
Just so it's all right on paper.
Okay, so when you just voted,
second.
it says reconsider the vote for Jason Quick to city administrator.
Right, so that was to say we're going to vote again. So that's approved.
Okay.
So now we got to vote. I'm sorry, I know it's procedural, but it's got to be right.
Okay.
Now we vote on Jason Quick.
Yeah. So now we reconsidered, and now.
You can
we're
just
gonna
put that on
say
here,
we're gonna-
that we all are going
Yeah.
to accept the nomination.
Just say accept the nomination of Jason Quick as city administrator. I'm sorry, but the way it's all right.
Ask the election commission about it. If you don't do it right, then they'll come back and get you.
Okay.
Ready to vote? And it passes 7-0. And that passes 7-0. Being no other new business.
Oh,
There is new business. We had an amendment to the agenda.
We did that earlier.
No, we didn't. We voted to add it to the agenda. We haven't voted on it.
We voted it to bring it back to the board.
It's just a discussion.
We did, but they wanted a discussion added to the agenda. Correct?
Your motion was to bring it back to the board for resolution. Costa Bryce.
It's a discussion to bring resolution. Discussion.
Yep, the board for resolution.
It's discussion. And then somebody can make a motion in the discussion if they choose to.
And that passed 4-3.
That was just added to the agenda.
Yeah, it's just added to the agenda.
For discussion.
For discussion.
Okay. We'll go back to that matter. We added it to the agenda. Thank you for bringing that to the attention. Okay. Alderman Berry, you made the motion. So
Actually need a motion and second in here.
need a motion and a second for discussion. Motion from Barry. Seconded by Man. And with that motion, Alderman Berry, you're recognized first for discussion.
So, there are some matters we can't discuss because they were done in executive session. But we have the outstanding issue of Ms. Bryce being on leave. And my thought there, after speaking with others, not on this board, and some emails that we had received, the original was to give the city administrator the authority, or not the authority, but to say this leave needs to come to an end. I think maybe instead of passing that off to our interim or the new administrator to handle, we have a transition here, so I believe that this is a matter that we need to resolve ourselves. My thought is that we, between now and that we set a date, and the director needs to return to work by that date, is my thought.
That's your motion.
For discussion right now.
Alderman Howard.
I can't help it. So what I don't appreciate right now is being put in this position considering the landmines that I feel like have been set before this board in litigation and with legalities. And those landmines were started by the actions of this very employee. And this is just the truth. And past that, we have a district attorney who is now involved. We have potential pending criminal, liability. We have ongoing investigations, and anything that several of us on this board say so, it's like somebody's just hunting to grab us by the toe. And I don't like that. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't like any of this. And we don't know what to act, because no matter what we say or what we do, there is some sort of repercussion or consequence hanging around the corner, and it's like as if we're being watched so that we will say or do something wrong. And that angers me. That angers me. So I don't think that this is appropriate, even though it's a personnel matter, to do under this situation because of the potential litigation. And I think this matter would actually be more appropriate and suited for executive session based on all of the other things that are taking place around it. And I don't believe that it's an appropriate vote. The vote that has already been cast that we can't undo, there is no reconsideration, is that she would remain on leave until the resolving of a criminal investigation, and then potentially resolving of an internal investigation, one that we have not yet done. And I know I have a problem with us not have yet done that either, but how can we do that without our documents? And I understand that there's been some back and forth about trying to get these documents back so that we can even have a starting point. I'm still of the opinion we can't do anything or understand whether or not protocols or policies, or if our standard of due diligence and care has been violated by this employee. I don't like the fact that this employee went to receive an award while on wearing a City of Tullahoma badge while she was on administrative leave and a pending criminal investigation. I don't think that's appropriate. And yet we sit up here and we get to say nothing because it feels like, oh, if we say anything, we're going to A, either get sued, or B, the DA is going to slap another charge on one of us. And this is just wrong. It's just wrong. And I hope the district attorney is watching this tonight. He understands that I blame him more than I blame anybody right now. Anyways, I think that I would like to reserve that conversation going forward for executive session if this board is actually going to be the one to bring resolution of this and not follow what we've previously set out and voted on, because that matter has not concluded, then we need to do so and discuss that in executive session because of the pending liability.
Alderman Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, the way I understood it and the way that I feel like that it needs to have been handled is that we do an investigation to see what the outcome, obviously, of the investigation will be. And before we could do that, our documents were taken by District Attorney Northcott, and have since been handed to another district attorney from Warren County, I think. And these are our working city documents, so I'm not really sure why, since we had an investigation that we were working on, why we don't have our documents. I mean, I can see if they needed to get copies of the documents or I don't know what investigation, but we had those are our city documents that are working city documents that we needed to do our investigation, and because we don't have access to our documents, it has caused months and months and months of uncertainty for Ms. Bryce, as well as this. We have had no city administrator. Thankfully, Mr. Pearson stepped up to fill that role, but we need our documents back, and I don't understand how our working city documents why we don't have those.
Alderman Berry?
I agree with what you said, and this wasn't to put anyone on the spot. It is coming from the place of, and it's no disrespect to anybody not sitting up here. We have been paying somebody a lot. I don't know exactly how much. I don't want to say a lot. We have somebody that we are paying, and I think that we either, I agree, we don't have the documents. If we were going to go that route, then we need to go that route, but we either need to say come back, or I think we resolve it the other way by saying don't. But either way, we can't continue to keep paying somebody on leave. It's been months. How long has it been? February, March, April, May, June, July, almost end of October, September. 7 months that we have been paying somebody on leave. And according to the information we received from the district attorney, we ain't getting those documents back until all pending cases are done. That could be a year. That could be 2 years. It could be a month. I don't know how. I know it's not going to be a month. It is going to be months. And one way or another, either come back and be here on this date, and if you don't, then we terminate that way, or not that way, but either way, this has got to come to an end in this board. We had an executive session, we had these discussions. We can't come to decisions in an executive session, right? But we did talk about this topic in an executive session. I won't go into the details because we can't talk about the meat of it. But we need to come to a resolution, whether it's to part ways or not, because I mean, I don't even want to guess, but I'm guessing it's $10,000, $20,000 or more. I don't know how much. I have no idea how much. I should know, I guess. But, you know, that's my concern, is that we need to come to a decision and resolution to this, one way or the other, is whichever way we decide to do it as a board, I will support. But it needs to be resolved.
I mean, before I yield the floor to the other people who have their hands raised to speak, I'd like to ask our city administrator to please come forward and say what the DA has told us about the merits of the documents that are sequestered currently relative to Ms. Bryce.
Administrator or attorney?
City attorney, sorry.
These matters are the subject of a criminal investigation and a criminal case that's pending, as you all know. I furnished you with emails that I have received from the Attorney General about that, so you've been fully aware of it. We didn't discuss that fact in the executive session, but we did discuss all of this fully. We don't need to have another executive session to take action in this matter. The district attorney will not relinquish these documents to us as long as that investigation is ongoing and as long as that criminal case is pending. He cited 2 cases which I've reviewed. I think he's true and right. I think we have no choice but to either allow us to just move forward and take no action and leave the matter like it is, or take some personnel action that we think is appropriate at this time.
And the question about Ms. Bryce's culpability in his investigation in those documents.
His correspondence stated that thus far he had seen nothing that indicated there's any criminal activity on her part. But he said thus far, which means the investigation is still ongoing, and I have no way of knowing any more than I just related to you now, which was reported to me both by Attorney General Northcott in Coffee County and Attorney General Stafford in Warren County, both of whom had been involved in this matter.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Lamacher, you're recognized.
Here's my take on it. Number one, the fact that the district attorney we allowed him to take our documents, I take issue with. At that very meeting, when he came here and said, and I even asked him, how did you get these documents? And he said, well, you called us, but the Board of Mayor and Aldermen never did such, we never voted on such. And I actually would argue that those documents themselves, if they are in fact evidence, they were illegally obtained because he did so without a search warrant and with objection. We all know that Fourth Amendment, if somebody comes to your house and you object to a search, okay, only one member of that household has to object for that search to be invalid without a warrant. So it would be subject to the exclusionary rule that would even be used against even Ms. Bryce, for that matter. So with that, or for any other purpose on this board. So with that, I think that, number one, we cannot move forward. We cannot bring an employee back to work. That is irresponsible if they are still under, investigation. Number two, I'm fine with bringing a resolution of this, but I don't feel like we can make an adequate resolution until we have all of the facts, which we can't get until we get the documents. That is of no fault to Mr. Worsham. So what I would propose is, and I know Mr. Worsham's probably not going to like this, but I don't want the DA's answer that he won't give them back to us. I want a judge's answer. I want a judge to tell us, no, we can't have our documents back. And if we can file a motion to say, hey, can we get our documents? And the judge comes back and says, no, you can't because of X, Y, or Z, then we have that answer. But there might be, because I look at it, I've evaluated those cases as well. I look at it a little bit differently. I also would argue that these are they are the property of the city of Tullahoma. They're not the property of Ms. Bryce. They're not the property of any one of us up on here on the board. They're not even the property of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. They are the property of the city of Tullahoma. There was no search warrant received in this case, and I objected up here in public to the very taking of those documents. And I think that needs to be heard by a judge, and we need to see if we can get our documents back. And I promise you, Ms. Bryce, if we get our documents back and we can look at our internal processes, I will personally be happy to welcome you back to the city of Tullahoma. But right now, that is irresponsible, and I don't feel like we can come to a resolution based on our previous votes responsibly if we don't have our documents. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that I want a court to tell us we can't have them back. I want to file.
If I could, please. Yes, Mr. City Attorney.
There's a matter called the chain of custody of items that are the objects of a criminal investigation. The courts will not require the authorities to relinquish control of something that might be evidenced in a criminal pending case. We can't make a motion. We will have to file a suit. By the time that suit is heard, you all might not even be in office anymore, because there are a lot of ways that we have to travel through the court system to get to a final judgment in a matter. I think that would be a waste of the taxpayers' money to require anyone to file such a suit. We can't do it by motion. We're not involved in this lawsuit. It's a criminal action. I'm not a criminal lawyer. I have the authority under my contract to retain the services of another lawyer, and I would do that because I don't think that I'm the appropriate person to do that in the first place. But I think it would be a waste of taxpayers' money to do that. I think this board can resolve this matter. We discussed it at an executive session. We don't have to resolve it tonight, but it ought to be resolved soon by prayerful thought on the part of the members of the board. If you want another executive session, we can have that. But we don't need to let this drag on ad infinitum.
Alderman Wilson.
Yeah, so, and there was mention too of a decision of either criminal guilt or innocence from the district attorney. And to me, I never thought that our investigation wasn't criminal. It's whether or not someone broke procedures. So it doesn't, if I have an opinion that somebody says that they have no criminal, that the investigation thus far is not criminal in nature, that's great, but that still is not the investigation that we were pursuing. We had an active investigation going on, so I'm not really sure I mean, I'm not an attorney, of course, but it seems like that we should be able to have access to either copies or something. And also, I don't think that they should be redacted, and that we should have to pay for them to be redacted when they were our working city documents, that they were the subject of an ongoing investigation when they were seized from us. So, I mean, I understand that there may be case law of how things are handled in a criminal investigation, but I think that there's a little more detail, this is a more complex than just a cut and draw case law before. I think that we need to relook at, in my opinion, we need to have every attempt to get our documents back so that we can make the decision so that Ms. Bryce can either return to work or not.
I have one more thing to say.
One more.
So, if somebody steals my purse today, do I gotta wait a year and a half until that can go through the throes of our justice system to get my purse back? I don't think so. In fact, Title 39-11-709 has what you have to do when there's a procedure for return of property seized. And it says, A, only an owner and interest holder may make a claim for return of property seized for forfeiture or otherwise contest the forfeiture under this part. In the event of a seizure for forfeiture, the property shall not be subject to replevin, conveyance, or attachment, but is deemed to be in the custody of the seizing agency or official. Then it says B, if after 30 days from the date of the seizure of the property or the filing of a notice of lien, les pendens, no administrative or civil forfeiture action has been initiated, no civil or forfeiture action has been initiated, the owner or interest holder may petition the Chancery Court where the seizure occurred for return of the property seized or to have notice of lien, les pendens released. And you would say that Chancery Court, so it would be civil, but absolutely it is not, because this is Title 39, which is under criminal offenses. So I don't know why we can't just file a motion like this says to petition the court in the judicial district where the seizure occurred for return of the property. It doesn't mean that the property cannot be used as evidence going forward. It means that you are returning the property to its rightful owner. And I don't see, just like in my other situation, if somebody stole my purse today, that I'm going to have to wait a year and a half to get it back. I would like, and the answer to that may be no, Mr. Worsham. It may very well be no. And I understand that. But I want that from a court or from a judge.
Is that a motion?
It is a motion to instruct.
I'm going to read. That's seizure of property. It's a totally different thing than what we're talking about. That's as if you had a gun that was the alleged object of a killing. That's a little bit different. You wouldn't get that gun back until the matter was over. A petition is not a motion, Ms. Almacher. Don't you know the difference in Chancery Court? It's not, and you know that. This is not the appropriate way to do it. You don't need these documents to determine whether or not you want this lady to return to work. You don't need these documents to determine whether or not she violated any of our internal policies. Those are totally different from the criminal thing.
Mr. Worsham, with all due respect.
If you want to return another attorney to do what Ms. Almacher wants to do, that's all right. I'm not going to debate the matter any further with her at this meeting tonight, however. Thank you.
With all due respect, that is for us to decide on whether or not we need the documents to do what we, and I appreciate Mr. Worsham's input and his advice to us, but it ultimately is this board's decision on whether or not we believe we need those documents.
Well, if there was a better way to do this, then maybe we should get together and hear it. But we had an ongoing investigation. I'm still at a loss as to why that evidence is gone. It's evidence.
I'm trying to choose my words wisely. What matters to me is resolving this whichever way we want to go. If we want to continue down the path then we say, be here by this date. If we don't want to continue down that path, then terminate. I'll support either way the board goes, whatever we decide collectively, but we have to have resolution to this. This can't continue. I don't know what is happening on either other side. I really don't know what's happening really outside of what we've been told in the executive sessions. And I don't care who it was, who it is, what they did. We can't continue to be paying somebody for months and months and months, probably into years. We just can't do it. It's not the responsible thing to do. My debate's not with, I don't know enough about the law. I semi-agree that I feel like there are documents. I don't know enough to say either way, right? I feel that we should get them. If it takes supporting a motion to take it as far as we can to get the no from the person the highest that we can get it from, that we're not going to get those back, I would agree to that if the outcome of that is, hey, if they say we can give at it, great, we proceed how we want to proceed, but if they say no, then we make a decision at that point, either yes or no, but it ends.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion twofold to petition the court to obviously seek outside counsel outside of Mr. Worsham, to petition the court to get our documents back, and in the interim, place Ms. Bryce on unpaid administrative leave.
Still one request to speak.
Got a second from Mr. Mann?
No.
No? I'm still reading, it's on my,
I'll second it to,
we got a motion from Ms. Almacher, and we don't have you got a second? Any discussion on that motion?
I'll go. I think that it's impossible for us to make a decision when we haven't done the investigation, but if there was a decision to be made, I don't know that how we can bring someone back to work that there was a question over a 96-gallon bin full of documents, whether or not that it was appropriate or within policy to have ordered a shred bin that was 96-gallon bin full of documents. I don't know how that we would be able to ask them to return to work. How would other employees, what precedence does it set? What would other employees think about that? I guess Alderman Berry, I mean, if that's what you're proposing, I mean, I don't know how that would be appropriate to bring someone back to work. I mean, I'd love to have immediate resolution, but I don't know how.
We discussed in executive session. We had this discussion in executive session.
I believe the motion, though, that's on the floor that you seconded is to go to the legal channels of Chancery Court to get the documents back. From now until we get an answer from the courts, Ms. Bryce will be placed on unpaid administrative leave. That's the motion that's on the floor that you seconded. Any discussion on the motion and the second? Alderman Glenn?
I will, and I am speaking tonight on advice of counsel. He said it's perfectly fine for me to speak. tonight on any of these issues and to vote. I would like to speak to offer an amendment to that motion, and that would be seek full resolution to get our documents back as far as it needs to go, but leave Ms. Bryce on paid leave. I know it's costing the city money, but if that's what we have to pay to make things right by everybody, then that's what we need to do. But I do not think we can go forward and make a decision when we don't know any more than we knew on day one. So I think the investigation has to proceed. We do the petition to try to get our documents back, take that the furthest further as far as we can. We get the answer on that, and then we make another decision. So
I'll accept your friendly amendments. Will you, as the second?
I will second that.
We have a motion to pursue through the courts to get the documents returned, and how long that takes is an unknown time.
all right.
And that's an unknown time. It doesn't end with one court. It may end with several layers. But that's the motion. It's on the floor. And the second, the amendment, with the amendment that Ms. Bryce remain on paid administrative leave.
Correct.
Alderman Berry.
Can I make a proper friendly emotion, not emotion, motion is we seek the petition. If the court hears it and they say, yep, you can get your documents back, we proceed. If the court says no, then we make a decision at that next meeting to either retain or to not. But either way, once we get that decision at the next meeting, well, obviously, if an investigation needs to be done, it'll take longer. But at the next meeting, if they say no, we make a decision, and we don't put it on anybody else.
I think we can determine how to move forward with an investigation with or without the documents, but I think an investigation is going to be much more fruitful with the documents is the purpose of this. And then if we have to move forward with an investigation without the documents, we will do so at that time, I think is the purpose of this. But yes, I think it would be appropriate to move forward with an investigation and make a decision as to what we are going to do with that position, you know, at the minute we have an answer about whether or not we're getting our documents.
Do we need to add that Mr. Worsham could hire any attorney oh, she already has that.
I think that it's appropriate to ask Mr. Worsham to seek some outside counsel, and we're okay with.
And that's because I don't feel like I want to do that. Or should do that under the circumstances, because I've worked both with Ms. Bryce and with all of you. The other thing is, though, that these items do need to be redacted, and they may be redacted by the Attorney General, as you noticed what he said in the email that he said. Now, there is a redaction policy under Tennessee Code Annotated that he can follow, and he will follow that. So that may take a while for that to happen. But you may proceed, and I hope that I can find another attorney who is willing to represent this city in a matter such as this.
May I clarify? We don't need somebody else to redact our documents. We will redact our documents should they need be. You don't take all the contents out of somebody's purse before you give it back to them. So we'll get it back, and then we'll determine. So I wouldn't ask for. Make it very clear that we're not asking for the documents to be redacted, and we're not asking for another attorney to redact them.
We shouldn't have to pay to redact our own documents.
Yeah.
Y'all probably don't need me here tonight. I'm trying to give you advice, but surely not. Doesn't look like you want to follow it. However, I will say again that there is a method of redacting documents that is required by the law that has nothing to do with redaction relative to our investigation, but the redaction of social security numbers and other pertinent information about personnel. And these are personnel records that the Human Resources Director had. And so we'll let whomever we're able to find to represent this city in this matter deal with that issue as well. But it might be a problem. I'm just pointing it out to you, and it might take a while, according to what General Stanford's email to me, or letter to me, I think, or Ms. Northcott. I got some from both, indicated. So do it as you may, but in the meantime, you're allowing this lady to just be in limbo, and I think probably we need to move forward with this matter.
The documents, to clarify, would not be permissible to be seen from the public, obviously without redaction. That is subject to those rules and regulations. However, they don't have to be redacted to be returned to the city of Tullahoma, is what I'm saying. So, motion's on floor.
The motion that we have is to seek return of the documents through the court system, through the appropriate court system, and we've asked the city attorney to assist us in preparing that request. And that request is also now that until we receive those documents, Ms. Bryce will remain on paid administrative leave until a resolution is reached at the culmination of the court's decision on whether to return the documents or not. With the or not, the board will determine the final action with Ms. Bryce.
We will determine how to move forward from that point, yes.
With that, we're ready to vote. Vote passes 5-2. With that, there being no other new business, Board Mayor and Aldermen is adjourned, but we'll move directly into the beer board. On the consent agenda, I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Mathis, seconded by Berry. Vote on the agenda, consent agenda. Passes 7-0. There's no other unfinished business, but the new business is item number maybe 29, beer application for a special events permit for a nonprofit for the Beechcraft Heritage Museum. Ms. Jody Curtis will be the manager in charge of beer sales. The annual beach party, October the 11th through the 14th, and will be waiving the permit fee. A motion from Barry, seconded by Wilson. All in favor? Vote yes or no. Passes 7-0. There'll be no other new business. The beer board will be adjourned. Good evening.